Hold it! That's right. If you didn't recognize the music, we're playing some more Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney. So, welcome to the case. My boss was just murdered. Maya, my boss's little sister, was arrested on suspicion of murder and does not want me to be her lawyer. So I gotta go find Martin Grosberg. And, Sachi stole my stylus. Alright, fingers it is. So we're gonna go... I think we already talked to her. Did we? Yeah. Alright, so we're gonna go visit the Grosberg Law Office. And see how they can help. According to the receptionist, the big boss is out. That's not good. She couldn't say when he'd be back. Must be hard to keep track of everything when you're a famous lawyer. Not to mention run an office like this. I guess I'll just have to come back later. Okay, let's poke around. Let's do a little peeking. What's there to click on? That painting has been bugging me ever since I stepped in here. The oil paint is just so thick it's practically giving me a stuffed nose. I'm sure the price is nothing to sneeze at either, for that matter. Let's examine the desk. A solid mahogany desk. The wood's been polished to a deep luster. A table for clients. An elegant ebony case, and if I'm not mistaken, that lighter's made of solid gold. Even I can tell someone here's got money to burn. Alright, let's leave. Let's go back to... Do you want to go to our own office? Let's go to our own office and check in. September 6th, Fay and Company Law Offices. The office is filled with police officers. They're all busily searching for clues. Hey, you there! This is a crime scene, pal. No trespassing. Oh, sorry, don't I know you from somewhere? Wait, you're that Butts guy, aren't you? No, Phoenix Wright. How could anyone mistake me for Larry? Ah, guess I got the wrong name, Mr. Wright. Sorry about that. That Butts guy, he was a killer. And you're no killer, right? He was proven innocent. Right. And you were... Ooh, should we get his name wrong on purpose? Detective Gumshoe, Detective Suede Shoes, Detective Gumtree. Let's go with that one. Gumtree? Was it? Detective Gumtree? Gumtree? Gum doesn't grow on trees, pal. And I'm not the one in charge here, so don't push your luck. Oh, sorry, and I'm the one in charge here, so don't push your luck. Whatever you say, detective. Anyway, get the name right. And don't go calling me Dick. Hey, Dick, get over here. Yes, sir. But be right there. You're her lawyer, right, pal? If you got business here, you'd better do it quick. Whew. He thinks I'm Maya's lawyer. Alright, should we talk to him? Let's see what he knows. Let's ask him about Mia. About Miss Fay. Did you do an autopsy? Huh? You want to know the results, eh? Now don't you look at me. I can't do this. Now don't you look at me like that, pal. It's no use. She might have been your boss, but that doesn't mean you get any special treatment. Alright. You can see the report, but that's all. Autopsy report. Cool. That's about Maya. About Maya. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the trial. Sorry, pal, but this is one trial you aren't going to win. What? Why do you say that? The city's put Prosecutor Edgeworth on the prosecution. Edgeworth? I'm sure you know what that means, you being a lawyer and all. Edgeworth! Edgeworth! Prosecutor Edgeworth? That's right, pal. Mr. Miles Edgeworth himself. Wait, you don't know him? Don't you? You don't know him, don't you? Sorry. Of course not. Never heard of him. Whoa! You call yourself a lawyer, pal? About 4 years ago, this Edgeworth guy became a prosecutor at the age of 20. Everyone says he's a genius. Surprised you don't know him. Of course I know him. I was just playing dumb. He's a cold, heartless machine who will do anything to get a guilty verdict. There are rumors of back alley deals and forged evidence. All I know for sure is that Edgeworth hates crime with almost an abnormal passion. I never imagined I'd be facing him so soon. Alright, let's examine the room. Maya's favorite plant. Don't really care. I don't think there's gonna be anything important in this room. See if there's anything we want to show him. Oh right, yeah, let's try and get the phone. I was wondering, did you see Maya Faye's cell phone? Oh, that? I have that. Do you think you could give it back? Sure. I mean, wait a second, pal. Tricky lawyer. Uh-oh, he's on to me. Tell it to him. Let's be a little bit not so straight. Okay, I can't be straight with this guy. But what should I tell him? Something the matter? Oh, no, that carrying strap on the cell phone. This? It says, the Steel Samurai, warrior of Neo-Old Tokyo. The Steel Samurai? That action hero on TV? Yeah, you see, that strap is a collector's item. She was worried it might get lost if it went down to the precinct. That what she said? Yes. Okay, pal. I wrote down all the numbers she called anyways. Here you go. Seems you didn't notice the recorded conversation. Woohoo! We got the phone! Check the court record to hear the recorded conversation. I guess I've asked all the questions I need to. You're all done, pal? Yes. Thank you. I'll be heading out now. Oh, wait. One more thing I wanted to mention to you. I don't suppose you're planning on talking to that witness. Anyway, you'd better not. No influencing the witness with your lawyerly ways, pal. Come to think of it, I'd completely forgotten about her. The witness? Yeah, Miss April May. I'm sorry about this, but I can't tell you anything about her. Well, you just told me her name. Miss May, huh? So, you sent her home already then? Aha! You're trying your lawyerly tricks on me now. She's not to go outside her room until the trial. so, she's still in the hotel across the way. I guess I should know better than to try and get a detective to leak information. You got that right, pal. Time to pay a visit to Miss May. Alright, do we want to go to the hotel first, or should we give Maya the cell phone? I'm thinking let's go to the hotel first. September 6th. Gatewater Hotel, room 303. Well, hello there, handsome. Hi. Smooth, right? Real smooth. You're the lawyer, aren't you? The detective told me. He said, don't say nothing to that lawyer, pal. Memo to self. Thank Detective Gumshoe for making my job harder. Gee, this is all like something out of a movie. It's all so exciting, I can hardly contain myself. Oh, let me go freshen up so I can look the part of the beautiful eyewitness. I pity the lawyer that has to cross-examine this one. Let's see, that looks suspicious. There's a screwdriver stuck in this drawer. I wonder what's inside. Let's take a look. Hey! Hey! What are you doing? No touching. Oh, bad boy. You really shouldn't pry around in other people's rooms now. You wouldn't want to make me upset, would you? Upset? I thought she was going to explode for a second there. I wonder what could be inside the drawer. See if I can notice anything else with her. The late summer sunlight streams through the window. There's the Fan Company law offices building, of course. You can see inside of the room pretty clearly from here. I think it would be a little difficult to recognize a face from this distance, though. A bottle and 2 glasses are on the table. Somebody must be staying with her. Let's talk to her a little bit. Let's ask her about herself. I feel like she'll let her guard down the most that way. Could you who exactly are you? Ooh, Mr. Lawyer, are you hitting on me? No. Hey, I'm just doing my job here. You know, you're cute when you blush. Believe me, this is the first time in my life I've blushed this much. Right, can you just tell me what it is you do? Well, no. And you had your little hopes up, didn't you? Oh boy. See if she'll give us anything at all. Do you think you could tell me something? I need you to describe what you observed at the time of the incident. Ooh, observe. Incident, you sound just like a lawyer in the movies. I like a man with a big vocabulary. Better not encourage her. You know that thing that happened the other day, the bad thing? What did you see when it happened? I don't suppose you could tell me about it. Pretty please? Let me see. Well, dream on! If you want to know, you'll just have to come to court tomorrow, Mr. Lawyer. Oh boy. I see there are 2 glasses on the table. Is someone staying here with you? Ooh, what amazing powers of observation! You must be one of those famous detectives, like on television. Oh, no, not me. I'm, just a lawyer. Say, Mr. Big Detective, why don't you go look for clues in the garbage, Miss May doesn't like nosy little lawyers. Oh boy. Said a lot of oh boys lately. You want to show her anything? Nah. I don't think we have anything useful. Alright, let's head out. I think we'll go to the detention center. Hey there, oh gosh, I can't read that. Mininet 4. Welcome to the stream. Hey! What is it? Did you meet the lawyer? Sorry. I haven't seen him yet. I see. I'd better go see if I can find this elite lawyer she's talking about. Let's show her the cell phone. See if that cheers her up a little. Hey, I got your cell phone back. Oh, say, can I listen to my sister's voice? Maya's eyes closed. She listened to every word with such intensity. Before long, tears began to roll down her cheeks. Thank you. I guess we gotta go to the Grasberg Law offices again. This drink is iced coffee with French vanilla creamer in it. It's not anything particularly fancy, it's just leftover French press that sat out for long enough to get cold. And then I added ice to make it actually cold instead of just gross room temperature. Well, maybe I should just wait for him to come back. Ahem! If that wasn't the most over-the-top clearing of the throat I've ever heard. Oh, just a fancy container. Yeah, no, it's just in a fancy cup. I don't know. Fancy cup makes me feel fancy. Aha! So you're the one they say has been looking for me? Yeah, yes, that's me. He looks even grander than I imagined. That badge on your collar. I can't, I'm like drifting all of my male voices into the same voice. I need to make his distinct. Should I make him British? I can't do a British accent. How about Southern? I don't know if I can do any accents, but we'll give him a Southern drawl. Ah, so you're a lawyer now, are you? Yes. Well, yes. British sounds good. I don't think I could do a British accent. I need to I don't have any calibration phrases either. Cheerio, pip pip cheerio. Let's see, I don't think I can do my own accent. Yeah. I have a bit of like a hoser accent sometimes. I need I need to think about like something to get the like I don't know. 12 different nationalities and regions. It happens in the age of the internet that you get weirder and weirder accents. Okay. I need a calibration phrase. I need a different voice for him. Let's see. And what you want? Sure, that's gonna be his accent. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not particularly busy these days. Please proceed. Not busy? Then how come no one can get in touch with you? Something the matter? You came to see the one and only Marvin Grossberg, did you not? Well, here I am, boy. What do you want? Out with it! Well, sir, actually, it's about Maya. Maya Fey. Ah, yes. Maya Fey, go on. Why the strange reaction? I can't do any accents without drifting into weird other things, so I'm gonna apologize. Luckily, this character doesn't get too much dialogue. I'll have to come up with something for Edgeworth too, and I'm not ready for that at all. Cha-cha. I'm really quite busy here, son. Can't go taking cases on a day's notice. No, it's quite impossible. But wait a second. How did you know the trial was tomorrow? Anyway, I'm afraid it's entirely impossible for me to represent her. Sorry, end of discussion. What's going on? He refused me before I even got a chance to ask him. What do I tell Maya? Why won't you take the case? How can you just refuse like that? Please, tell me why you won't take the case. Well, you see, it's just, I'm busy, you see? But the client is Mia- oh, sorry, wrong point. But the client is Mia Fey's sister. Mia trusted you. She knew her sister would be in good hands. Yes, of course. I know that. However, I'm sorry, but I must refuse. Sorry, goodbye. Creep. Fine. I don't have time to argue with you anyway. I'll go look elsewhere. Think not. Huh? Did you say something? I think not, I said. What do you mean? I'm terribly sorry. But I'm afraid that no lawyer worth their salt will take on this particular case. Terribly sorry, my boy. Why? I cannot say. I beg your pardon, but could you leave now? I've nothing more to discuss with you. What's going on here? How did you know Mia Fey? She worked here a long time ago. Quite the apprentice, that one. Learned my techniques in the blink of an eye. She left one day, quite suddenly. She had a mission, you see. A mission? You could see it in her eyes. She followed it with a burning passion. Never looked back, that one. That's quite a painting. Aha! You noticed. It's my pride and joy. Impressive, isn't it? Well, isn't it? The color of the sky, the hue of the sea, the weave of the straw hat. It's worth at least 3 million. I have no intention of parting with it, of course. No, I won't sell it. Not even to you. I wasn't interested. It's not for sale. I'm not buying. Oh, sorry, wrong voice. I'm not buying. Jeez. Sorry, just saving. It's gonna freeze for a sec. Alright, let's, go tell Maya the bad news. September 6th, 3:42 p.m. Detention Center. Visitor's room. Hiya. Oh, you're back! Did you find the lawyer? Well, what do I tell her? Well, see, just be honest. I really don't think you should use that guy. He didn't seem healthy. He was all skin and bones. What really happened? You don't mean he refused to help? I see. I've been abandoned then. What about your family?
I only had my sister. My father died when I was very young, and I don't know where my mother is.
Don't know. So she could still be alive? Your mother?
The women in my family have been mediums for generations. They say a lot of spiritual power runs in our blood. About 15 years ago, our family was involved in a incident. There was a man and he ruined our mother's life.
Ruined?
After that, she disappeared. Several years after that, my sister announced that she would become a lawyer, and she left the mountain.
So, you live by yourself?
Yes. I've gotten used to it.
Uh-oh. Oh.
Oh, also, I had to become independent, or I would lose my powers.
I feel bad for her, all by herself up in that mountain. So, who is this man who, ruined your mother?
About 15 years ago, there was an unusual murder case. It made quite a stir. Everyone was talking about it, apparently. The police were running out of leads and they were getting desperate.
Wait, they didn't use a spirit medium, did they?
The police convinced my mother to try to contact the victim.
Wow, so what happened?
The case was solved, we thought.
You thought?
The man my mother helped the police capture was innocent. The police's consultation with the medium had all been carried out in secret, of course. But a man found out about it and leaked it to the press. He told all the papers that my mother was a fraud, and the media jumped on it big time. My mother, became the laughingstock of the nation.
I see.
White.
Excuse me? White?
That was his name. My sister told me.
White?
Just a little longer now before the state-appointed lawyer comes, I guess.
4 p.m. Time's up. What should I do? Should I just leave her and go home? What should I do, guys? Should I leave her? Should I abandon her? Or should I defend her? Either way, I'm gonna end up representing her. Because otherwise the game wouldn't go on, but... Nah, I'm feeling heroic. I've got my blazer on. I have to represent her. I've made up my mind. I'm going to defend you whether you want me to or not.
What? Why?
Why? Well... I don't know why. I can't abandon you. No one is the saddest person without any friends. I know. I've been there. A long time ago. Why did I become a lawyer in the first place? Because someone has to look out for the people who have no one on their side. Maya. I won't abandon you. You can count on me.
That's so kind of you.
Well, let's fight this one and get you out of here.
Right. Thank you.
Phew, she smiled at last. She looks like an entirely different person. One last question. Uh-oh. Let's save. You are innocent, right?
Yes. And I trust you. So you trust me too, okay?
It's a deal. So, what next? There's something that's been bugging me. Just what was inside the strange woman's drawer? It was when I tried to look into that drawer that she got all defensive. There has to be something in there.
Okay, let's see. I want to look at the court record for a second. I just want to see what the autopsy says. Okay, so Mia's autopsy report. Type reports received from Detective Dick Gumshoe. Cause of death, 5th of September at 9 p.m. Cause, single blunt force trauma. Death was instantaneous. Okay, let's go to the Gatewater Hotel and see if we can poke around. Good afternoon, sir. Excuse me, you are? I beg your pardon, sir. I am the bellboy of this establishment, at your service, sir. Oh, right. I've just come up to deliver some room service, sir. Do you know where Miss May might be? Thank you, Garrett. I believe our guest, Miss May, is currently using the, facilities. If you've no need of anything, I'll be taking my leave. Please, stay as long as you like. Enjoy. Yeah. Wait, no, hey! Why does it seem like every time I come here, I end up embarrassing myself? Wait, now's my chance to snoop around a bit. I almost forgot. Ah! You came back quick. Might I ask you to inform Miss May that there is a message for her? Please tell her that Mr. White of Blue Corp phoned. Oh, right, sure. Mr. White of Blue Corp. Where have I heard that name? You heard it like 2 minutes ago from Maya. Jeez, Phoenix. Come on, Nick. Sorry. It was like 2 minutes ago. Okay. It's okay. It's only a second trial. Oh, there we go. He figured it out. Never mind. I'm judging too quickly. White. That was his name. My sister told me. White was the name of the guy who ruined Mia and Maya's mother. Could it be a coincidence? Poke! Oops. Oh, no, I just like went and touched the top screen instead. Examine! There's a screwdriver sticking out of that half-open drawer. Now's my chance to see what's inside. What do we have here? A wiretap? What would a woman like her be doing with a thing like this? Wiretap added to the court record. There's definitely something suspicious about this Miss May. Why would she have something like this in her hotel room? There's a story behind all this, I know it. All right. I'll be using this bit of evidence in tomorrow's trial, that's for sure. For Maya's sake. I'll get to this woman's bottom. Wait, I mean, you know what I mean. Oh, bellboy, still there? Uh-oh, time to scram. I look forward to tangoing with you tomorrow, Miss May. In court. To be continued. Sorry, the music gets me really hyped. Actually, no, not sorry. I won't apologize. September 7th, 10 a.m. District Court, courtroom number 1. Court is now in session for the trial of Miss Maya Fey. No, I have to come up with an Edgeworth voice. The prosecution is... I should give him like a Draco Malfoy. I don't want to do another British accent though. I need like vaguely sleazy. Vaguely sleazy North American accent. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor.
The defense is ready, Your Honor. Miles Edgeworth. Or maybe I should just give him like a Googling ideas. Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm thinking alternative to sleazy. I could also go like anime villain. Although off the top of my head, I cannot think of any anime villain voices. Which is like dumb because a billion. Kelsey says check Snapchat for her. Alright. Oh, I'm in the wrong Snapchat account. I'm in my Thrifty Fangirl account. I need to go back to my regular Snapchat. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna turn this up real loud if I can.
Janet, what if he talked like this?
Oh!
I'm Edgeworth.
I like that.
Janet, what if he talked like this? I'm Edgeworth.
I like it. Okay. Hopefully you guys could hear that. If not, too bad. I might flip a little bit more. I'll start with that, but I'm gonna try and edge it, edge it, because it's Edgeworth, towards like anime villain if I can figure out. I'm having such a brain fart. I should, by like every means, know what an anime villain sounds like. Mr. Edgeworth, please give the court your opening statement. Thank you, Your Honor. The defendant, Miss Maya Fey, was at the scene of the crime. The prosecution has evidence that she committed this murder. And we have a witness who saw her do it. The prosecution sees no reason to doubt the facts of this case, Your Honor. I see. Thank you, Mr. Edgeworth. Let's begin then. If we may call our first witness, Your Honor. The prosecution calls the chief officer at the scene, Detective Gumshoe. Witness, please state your name and profession to the court. Sir! My name's Dick Gumshoe, sir. I'm the detective in charge of the homicides down at the precinct, sir. Detective Gumshoe. Please describe for us the details of this murder. Very well, sir. Let me use this floor map of the office to explain. Sorry. My computer can't even handle this enough to play the music, like, without lag. The body was found here by this window here. And the cause of death. I don't think that Edgeworth's quite distinct enough from, like, some of the other voices that are especially gonna be in, like, recurring cases. It's kind of, like, gloomy sounding. And the cause of death? Loss of blood due to being struck by a blunt object, sir. The murder weapon was a statue of the Thinker found next to the body, sir. It was heavy enough to be a deadly weapon, even in a girl's hands, sir. The court accepts the statue as evidence. They're still calling it a statue. Floor plan added to the courtroom record. Now, detective. Yes, sir. You immediately arrested Miss Maya Fey, who was found at the scene, correct? Can you tell me why? Yes, sir. I had hard evidence she did it, sir. Detective Gumshoe, please testify to the court about this hard evidence. As soon as the phone call came in, I rushed to the scene. There were 2 people there already. The defendant, Miss Maya Fey, and the lawyer, Mr. Phoenix Wright. I immediately arrested Miss Maya Fey. Why? We had a witness account describing her. The witness saw Miss Maya Fey at the very moment of the murder. The very moment, you say. Very well. Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination. Yes, Your Honor. Cross-examine what? I couldn't see a single contradiction in that testimony. Whoosh. Smack. Hey, Maya just threw something at me. What's this? When my sister couldn't find any contradictions in a witness testimony, she would bluff it and press the witness on every detail. The witness always slips up and says something wrong. It worked lots of times. Huh. I should have expected Maya would know some of her sister's tricks. All right, let's give this a try. Something the matter? No, Your Honor. I'd like to begin my cross-examination. As soon as the phone call came in, I rushed to the scene. There were 2 people there already. The defendant, Miss Maya Fey, and the lawyer, Mr. Phoenix Wright. I immediately arrested Miss Maya Fey. Why? We had a witness account describing her. I'm gonna press that. Hold it! Hold on, just 1 second. Yeah? If I heard correctly, you said you arrested her because you had hard evidence she did it, correct? Huh? Did I say that? Me? I heard you say it. You did say it. You said it. Exactly what about the suspicious women in Pink's claim was hard evidence? What? Miss May isn't suspicious. She sure isn't Pink, pal. Well, I guess she is Pink. That's enough. Detective Gumshoe, do you have any more solid proof other than her claims, Detective? I guess pressing can have its advantages. Yes. Ah! Sorry, I got the order of things mixed up in my testimony, Your Honor, sir. There was something I should have told you about first, Your Honor. Very well, Detective. Let's hear your testimony again. After securing the suspect, I examined the scene of the crime with my own eyes. I found a memo, written on a piece of paper next to the victim's body. On it, the word Maya was written clearly in blood. Lab test results showed that the blood was the victim's. Also, there was blood found on the victim's finger. Before she died, the victim wrote the killer's name. How you like that? That's my hard evidence. Do a quick save. Before we begin cross-examination, I have a question for you, Detective. Your Honor? Why didn't you testify about this piece of vital evidence the first time? I know. I'm real embarrassed I forgot about it, Your Honor, sir. Try to be more careful. Very well, the defense may begin its cross-examination. Hard evidence. I forgot to open back up my Twitch feed. Okay, good. I did not miss any messages or chat. After securing the suspect, I examined the scene of the crime with my own eyes. I found a memo written on a piece of paper next to the victim's body. On it, the word Maya was written clearly in blood. Lab test results showed that the blood was the victim's. Also, there was blood found in the victim's finger. Before she died, the victim wrote her killer's name. Guess what? That's wrong! Because we have an autopsy report. Objection! Detective Gumshoe. There's one thing I want you to clarify for me here. You say that the victim, Mia Fey, wrote this note? That she was accusing the defendant, Maya Fey. That's really what you're saying? What? This isn't one of those lawyer tricks, is it now? Is it? Of course she wrote it. Who else could have? You have it backwards, detective. Backwards. The victim is the only person who absolutely could not have written it. This is a report from your department, detective. Immediate death due to a blow from a blunt object. She died immediately. But... No but-ing your way out of this one, detective. Rip my computer. Order! Order! The defense has a point. Someone who died immediately wouldn't have time to write anything down. Objection! Oh, that's his voice. They sound too similar, like, when I'm doing it. Maybe I'll just pitch Miles up a little bit. Mr. Wright. I beg your pardon, but when exactly did you obtain that autopsy report? What, when? The day of the murder? The day after the murder? I forget. I'm sorry. I forgot. Ha! Forgot, you say? It was the day after the murder, Your Honor, sir. I was the one who handed it to him myself. Personally. Oh, right. The prosecution's point being? That autopsy report is outdated, Your Honor. What? A second autopsy was performed yesterday at my request. Death was almost immediate due to a blow from a blunt object. But there is a possibility the victim lived for several minutes after the blow. I received these results this morning. No way! Your Honor, it's quite easy to imagine that the victim did have time to write Maya. That is all. I see. Damn you, Edgeworth. I should have known you'd have something up your sleeve. Why, Mr. Wright, you look shocked. Something you want to say? You're a sham, Edgeworth. Your detective's a sham, I'm a sham, we're all shams, you're a sham, Edgeworth. Mr. Edgeworth. I've heard there's nothing you won't do to get your verdict. What reason could you possibly have had to request a second autopsy report? Mr. Wright, the defense will refrain from personal attacks on the prosecution. No matter, Your Honor. Mr. Wright, say what you will, the evidence in this report is undeniable. Your Honor, I submit this report to the court. Understood. The court accepts the evidence. Autopsy report updated in the court record. Well, Your Honor, the evidence strongly suggests the victim was identifying the killer. I suppose that's the obvious conclusion, yes. Darn, this isn't good. The prosecution would like to call its next witness. This poor, innocent girl saw the murder with her own eyes. Let the witness, Miss April May, take the stand. Exactly what part of her is innocent? Witness, your name, please.
April May! At your service! Wink!
Order. An introduction should not require any reaction from the crowd. The witness will refrain from wanton winking.
Aw. Yes, Your Honor.
This is not good. She's already captured the heart of every man in this courtroom. Tell us, where were you on the night of September 5th when the murder occurred?
Gee, I was like in my hotel room. I checked in right after lunch.
And this hotel is directly across from the Fay & Company law offices?
That's right, big boy.
Please testify to the court about what you saw.
It was like 9 at night. I looked out the window, you know? And then, oh! I saw a woman with long hair being attacked. The one attacking her was the mousy girl sitting in the defendant's chair. Then the woman, like, dodged to one side and ran away. But that girl, she caught up to her and she hit her. Then the woman with the long hair, she kind of slumped. The end. That's all I saw. Every little bitsy witsy. Wink!
Well, Your Honor, I see. It's a remarkably solid testimony. I don't see a need to trouble the witness any— Wait, Your Honor! Yes, Mr. Wright? What about my cross-examination? I thought the witness's testimony just now was quite firm, didn't you? Mr. Wright, I understand you were Miss Mia Fey's understudy, were you not? Thank you, Garrett. You must know her techniques well. Her cowardly way of finding tiny faults in perfectly good testimonies. Hey! How dare you! Well, Mr. Wright, will you cross-examine the witness? Yes? Heck yes? I'll gladly proceed with the cross-examination. I love doing this anime protagonist voice. Because that's like... There is a Phoenix Wright anime, and that's just how he talks. Like, he always just sounds like he's, like, championing a cause, but maybe kind of nervous. It's great. I mean, that's what he is doing, but it's, like, almost shonen protagonist-y, but not quite, because he's, like, an adult and not, like, 14. Only because I have a feeling Edward doesn't want me to. She has to have some weakness. Very well, you may begin your cross-examination.
It was like 9 o'clock at night. I looked out the window, you know?
Okay, let's see what evidence we have. We've got the autopsy report. Blunt object died within a few minutes after being hit. Why can't I turn the page? Uh-oh. Okay, well I can only tap left. Floor plans. Let's check the floor plans. I have a feeling this might be what we need. The receipt, the wiretap. Okay. Let's go back, see what else she has to say.
And then, oh! I saw a woman with long hair being attacked. The one attacking her was the mousy girl sitting in the defendant's chair. Then the woman, like, dodged to one side and ran away. But that girl, she caught up to her and she hit her.
That's it? Nothing really jumps out as a contradiction. There's gotta be something in there somewhere. Alright, we gotta press her. Maybe I just better press the facts a bit.
It was like 9 o'clock at night. I looked out the window, you know. Let's, a bug.
Why did you do that?
Huh? Why? Like, why what?
Why did you look out the window? Were you expecting to see something?
Oh, well, gee.
What? That's it? She can't get out of this question that easily.
I sort of, you know, I had a feeling.
Well, I have a feeling she's trying to avoid the question. Maybe I should press a little harder on this next one. Go for it! Let's see how far I can run with this. Surely you must have had a reason to look out your window at that time of night.
Ooh!
Mr. Wright, I will not have you badgering my witness. Badgering? You insist on needling her with these trivial questions? I really don't think it should be allowed. Yeah, oh god, those crowd noises are terrible. That was horrible. I'm very sorry you had to listen to that. Order. Mr. Wright, you have been warned. Poor girl. What about poor me? You looked out the window. What did you see? Next.
And then, ooh, I saw a woman with long hair being attacked. The one attacking her was the mousy girl sitting in the defendant's chair.
I want to know how she recognized my, excuse me. How do you know she was the defendant?
Huh? Well, you know, she had a girlish physique. Women know these things. Look, I just know, okay?
There was only one person at the scene of the crime with short, girlish figure. The testimony is bulletproof, Your Honor. He's right. I question the testimony. Hold on a minute. That testimony stinks.
What?
Miss May, I'm willing to bet that you saw nothing. Did you really see the defendant at all? Mr. Wright, what's the meaning of this?
Yes, what's the meaning? Somebody tell me, because I'm clueless. About this, I mean.
Okay. If you had really witnessed my client, Maya Fey, you would have noticed her clothes before you noticed her physique. No one wears clothes like this on a daily basis, except her. And I'm no expert on fashion, but her hairdo looks far from normal to me. However, the witness's testimony mentions neither of these things. The testimony is bogus.
But...
Still, we don't know if she was dressed that way the night of the murder. She was, Your Honor. I saw her. And so did Detective Gumshoe. What do you say to that, Miss May?
Ralph, what are you trying to say, you mean lawyer? I saw what I saw. I just didn't think all the trifling little details were necessary, darling.
Miss May, the court would like to remind you to please omit nothing in your testimony.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'll be a good girl, I promise. Wink.
Your testimony again, if you would. Damn, I almost had her. Witness account.
I did see everything. I did! The victim, the woman, dodged the first attack and ran off to the right. Then the girl in the hippie clothes ran after her. And she hit her with that weapon. I saw it. I did. That That clock, the kind of statue-y clock, the thinker, I think. Well, does the accuracy of my report not startle you? Hehe.
I only wish you had been so detailed from the beginning. Please begin the cross-examination.
I did see everything. I did. The victim, the woman, dodged the first attack and ran off to the right.
I'm gonna press that. Oh, did it? Is that right? As in, you're right as you looked from the hotel?
Which hand do I hold my knife in again? Right! It was my right hand, right?
Satisfied, Mr. Wright? Please continue.
Then the girl in the hippie clothes ran after her. And she hit her with that weapon. I saw it, I did! That clock. That kind of statue-y clock, I think?
Hold it! A clock? Didn't this come up in another testimony recently?
Deja vu. Well, don't look so sour, Mr. Lawyer. You can't win them all.
No, but I have a feeling I'm onto something now.
That clock, that kind of statue-y clock, the thinker, I think.
Let's show this. Objection! Miss May, what you said just now was quite revealing.
Revealing? Ooh, you'd like that, wouldn't you? Naughty Mr. Lawyer.
You just said that this statue of the thinker was a clock. But there's no way of knowing that just by looking at it. Another person in much the same position as you recently called this a clock too. And he was found guilty of murder. Order! Order! Miss May, can you explain how you know this was a clock?
Ooh!
The witness saw the murder with her own eyes. That's all that's important here. The defense is trying to confuse the issue with trivial concerns. Yes, of course. You will withdraw your question, Mr. Wright. Objection! But questions are all I have, Your Honor. And as you may recall, I've caught murders with these questions before. Well, only once. Objection sustained. You may continue to question the witness. Whew, that was close. If he stopped me there, the trial would be over.
Huh? What? So, what happens now?
What happens now is you answer my question. How did you know it was a clock?
What? That's... because I heard it? Yes, I heard it say the time.
So, you've been to the law offices of the Fang Company.
No! Hey, I didn't say that. Why would I go there? I heard it from my hotel room.
The law offices of Fang Co., where the murder took place, is very close to the hotel. She could easily have heard the clock. Well, Mr. Wright, are you satisfied? No, Your Honor. I can't give up now. I'm not satisfied because she couldn't have heard it. It couldn't have rung. Your Honor, members of the court, it is inconceivable that the clock in question rang. It's empty. That clock is missing its clockwork. How could you possibly? Just take a look. Right now. Oh. See anything interesting, Your Honor? It's as the defense says. This clock is missing its clockwork. It's quite empty. Hello, real hench. Good to have you here. Just gonna save right here. Cause you never know when stuff's gonna crash. Mr. Wright, would you care to explain to the court the meaning of this? It's as you can see. The clock was empty. It couldn't have rung. Therefore, this witness is a big, fat liar. Fat? Well, Miss May? Tisk, tisk. Quite a show you put on for us, Mr. Wright. He knew the clock was empty. Somehow. He knew. I'm afraid you've forgotten one thing, however. Indeed, the clock is empty, as you say. It can't ring. However, we must ask, when was the clockwork removed? If it was after the witness heard the clock, then there is no contradiction. That's true. That's a possibility. The clock might have been emptied after she heard it. And that is exactly what happened, Your Honor. Well, Mr. Wright, can you prove when the clock was removed? Impossible, of course. I have proof. Gotta do that Phoenix face. What? Wasn't it you who told me proof is everything? Well, I was listening. And now I'll show you the proof you like so much. The evidence that proves when the clockwork removed... The evidence that proves when the clockwork was removed is... Present. Take that! Take a look at this. That's a very cute cell phone. Ooh, you have a girly phone. Wait. This isn't my phone. Listen. This is the defendant's cell phone. And it contains a recording. A recording of a conversation she had with the victim on the day of the murder. Order! Order! The defendant's cell phone? This wasn't brought to my attention. Perhaps Detective Gumshoe overlooked it. The good detective better remember his up for evaluation soon. I gotta say, I'm starting to feel bad for the big fella. Let's hear the conversation. Beep! So you just want me to hold on to the thinker for you then? If you could. Edgeworth looks like the light at the end of Death Note. Oh man, that's so accurate. If you could. I should probably tell you, the clock isn't talking right now. Huh? It's not working? That's lame. I had to take the clockwork out. Sorry. September 5th, 9:27 a.m. Beep! Your Honor, I think this makes it clear the clockwork was already gone by the time this was recorded. Which was well before the witness even arrived at her hotel. Well, Miss May, would you care to explain this to the court? Just how did you know that weapon was a clock? Well, isn't it obvious? I saw that clock before. What store was that again? I go to so many. Oops, I forgot. Wink. I just realized when I said wink, I blinked like both eyes. So the witness had seen it before. That would make sense. Does the fence have any objections, Mr. Wright? Yes, because Larry made the clock and there's only 2 of them. The witness claims she had seen it before, but this directly contradicts a piece of evidence already submitted to the court. Well then, let's see it. Please produce this evidence that will prove the witness had not seen the clock before. I guess the clock's made by Larry Butts. It says it right there. Present. Take that! It's simple. This clock was never in any store ever. But what? A friend of mine made that clock. Only 2 exist in the world, and the one that isn't here is in police custody. Impossible! Everything is sold in stores! Miss May, I think it's high time you went shopping for a better excuse. Oh? Excuses not on sale today? Ooh. Ah! Was she angry? What's it to you, porcupine head? That stupid clock doesn't matter, okay? She did it, and she should die for it. Die! Glad you're enjoying this. Whoa, let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is a court of law. Oh man. Yes, JoJo. I love JoJo. This is a court of law, and the witness will remain calm. Silly me. Did I, lose it? I guess I did. Wink. Scary. Miss May, let me ask. Yeah, all we need is some katakana in the background of her, her little image there. Miss May, let me ask. Tell me, how did you know the weapon was a clock? Oh dear. Does the defense have an opinion on this behavior? Okay, this is it. Yes, Your Honor. Allow me to explain how I see the truth of the matter. Miss April May, you knew the weapon was a clock because you had heard about it. The witness had never held the clock in her hand. However, she had heard that it was a clock. She heard? That's correct, Your Honor. There is no other way she could have known the thinker was a clock. And I can show you the proof. Well, this is interesting. Let's see it then. Show me evidence proving that the witness had heard the murder weapon was a clock. The wiretap! Have a look at this. I found this in Miss May's room. Mr. Wright, please explain to the court what this is. Miss April May, you were tapping the victim, Miss Mia Fey's phone. Sorry, Miss Mia Fey's phone. Were you not? Ugh. Ugh. Your Honor, this is irrelevant. I'm not entirely sure that it is. Objection overruled. It troubles me that our witness was in possession of a wiretap. This is outrageous. Does the defense truly claim that the witness was tapping her phone? Absolutely. Even if that was the case, which it's not, you still have to prove one thing. Did the victim ever say that the weapon was a clock on the phone? Can you prove that? I think not. Oh yeah? I think I can. It's simple. What? Here's my proof. The proof that the victim said on the phone that the weapon was a clock is the recording. Take that! I present the defendant's cell phone. Yes, we've seen that. Listen once more to the conversation between the defendant and the victim.
Mia, what's up? You haven't called in a while. Well, actually, there's something I want you to hold on to for me. Again? What's it this time? It's a clock. It's made to look like that statue, the Thinker, and it tells you the time.
Miss April May, you used a wiretap to listen to this conversation. That's how you knew the Thinker was a clock. Am I wrong?
Objection!
Your Honor, this is ridiculous. Your Honor, look at the witness's face. Does she seem amused to you? The defense demands an answer. Witness, answer the question. Did you tap her phone? Miss May.
Shut up, all of you! What gives you the right to talk to me like that?
You liar! With that little eye twitch.
It's not fair! All of you ganging up on me like that! Oh, so I'm the bad girl, is that it? Is that it?
That did it. The court's seen the real Miss April May now. Now to deal the final blow. You did it, didn't you? Why the wiretap? Why did you tap her phone? Answer the question.
Do I have to? Isn't this a murder trial? Isn't tippy-tapping irrelevant?
God, she's saying exactly what Edgeworth wants her to say. Miss May, you were tapping the victim's phone. I hardly call that irrelevant. While this court does not condone the defense's tone of voice, he has a point. Well, Miss May, do you have an explanation for the court? Can you prove you had nothing to do with this murder, even though you tapped her phone? Ha! I think I'd like to see her pull that off.
Mr. Lawyer, I saw that evil, evil grin. You were probably thinking, I'd like to see her pull that off, weren't you?
Damn, she's good.
Well, you're not the first man who's thought that. And of course, I can and I will.
You can't be serious. No way.
Way. I say way. Oh, and I assure you I'm serious, Mr. Lawyer. Okay, so the killing happened around 9 at night? Why, that's just when I was getting room service from that sweet bellboy.
Room service? Oh, wrong voice. Room service?
Iced coffee, I believe it was. Iced coffee, you know, like normal coffee, but cold.
Accidentally relevant.
If you don't drink it quick, the ice melts, and then you have regular cold coffee.
Oh, that's what I have. I have regular cold coffee that the ice is melted in. When the sus person... Yeah, that's good. Iced coffee?
Think I'm making this up? Ask the bellboy. Wink.
Ergo, the witness was not at the scene at the time of the murder. So, where does that leave us? It's my great displeasure to inform you that the witness appears to have been tapping the victim's telephone. However, that is a separate crime with no bearing on the current case whatsoever. Her testimony stands. She saw the defendant, Maya Fey, commit murder. No, they're going to let her just walk away? There's no way I can win this unless I tie Miss May into the murder. Somehow. Well, does the defense have anything to say? Well, come on, think of something. Call the bellboy! The defense would like to call the hotel bellboy as a witness. There's something suspicious here, and I'm going to get to the bottom of it. I think you've sunk low enough already.
Objection!
I object to the calling of the bellboy. Why? What's your reason? Because I hold that the wiretapping had nothing to do with the killing. However, if you agree to one condition, I'll consent to calling this witness. Condition? If Miss April May's alibi is not called into question after you examine the bellboy, then you will recognize that Miss April May was not the killer, and thus she is innocent. There's 2 imposters, 1 confirmed doesn't count. Oh, so accurate though. No spoilers. I don't know. No spoiling the case there, Hedge. That is my condition. What? I better find something suspicious in that bellboy's testimony. Otherwise Maya will be declared guilty on the spot. What should I do? Accept the condition. I don't think she did it. She called the cops. We saw her on the phone. Although that was after we discovered the body. But if her body was still warm when we found her, and then we saw Miss May calling the cops across from the hotel room, I seriously doubt that she's the one who actually committed the crime. Also, I know how this goes. I know how this ends, but I have to, reason. I have to have a reason. Based on the facts at hand. Understood. I accept your condition. Fool. You fell right into my trap. Uh-oh. Wait. Very well. The court calls the hotel the hotel boy. The court calls the hotel boy. Sorry. The court calls the hotel bellboy to the stand. You activated my trap card! Oh, gosh, this is some good commentary. I believe we're ready for the witness to testify. He certainly does look like a bellboy. Yes, sir. I received your summons in the middle of work, sir. I'm happy to be of service. That tea set looks rather heavy, so without further ado, the witness may begin his testimony. Very good, sir. I am the head bellboy at the fine Gatewater Hotel, in business for 4 generations. I believe I received a call after 8 in the evening from our guest, Miss May. She asked for an iced coffee to be brought to her at 9 on the dot, sir. I brought it to her precisely at the requested time, of course. And I delivered the iced coffee to our guest, Miss May herself. I see. The defense may begin its cross-examination. Right, I'm ready. I hope. This is it. If I can't prove Miss May was involved with the murder now, Maya will be finished. Cross-examination! I am the head bellboy at the fine Gatewater Hotel, in business for 4 generations. I believe I received a call after 8 in the evening from our guest, Miss May. She asked for an iced coffee to be brought to her at 9 on the dot, sir. I don't want to press that. No, he won't know anything even if it is sus. I brought it to her at precisely the requested time, of course. And I delivered it, the iced coffee, to our guest, Miss May herself.
Hold it! You're sure it was Miss April May herself?
Absolutely, sir.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir, as in so very absolutely, sir. It's an endearing mannerism of mine.
How come you're so very certain?
Well, when I brought the room service, sir, the guest, sir, favored me with an embrasse, sir.
Embrasse, is that French for embrace?
It's French for kiss, sir, but not a French kiss, sir. More of a peck on the cheek.
Why would she have done that?
I believe, perhaps, she was momentarily swayed by my prim demeanor, sir. It was a moment I shall never, ever forget, sir.
Sounds pretty fishy to me. I think our Miss May was up to something and wanted the bellboy to remember her.
Same. Okay, let's see.
Let's ask about this one. 9 o'clock on the dot, you say?
Yes, I confirmed that detail several times. She was watching a program on the TV and wished to drink after she finished, sir.
9 o'clock, the time of the murder. It's no good. There's nothing there. Is that it?
Tisk tisk. I love Edgeworth so much. Finally, you understand. This bellboy has absolutely no reason to lie. Now, if you have any decency, you will end this rather tedious cross-examination here. It was a bit tedious. The witness may leave the stand.
I can't let this happen, can I?
What do I do? Doth the lady protest? Or do I give up? Oh man. Protest. I want to know about the person who was with her.
What? Wait! Please wait!
Yes. Does the defense have something to add?
One last question. Let me ask one last question.
Your Honor, I must object. This charade of justice has gone on long enough. Now, Mr. Edgeworth. All right, Mr. Wright. I'll give you one more question, that's all.
Okay. This is really it. Now, this is my last chance. What do I ask him about? Check-in, room service, bed making. Let's ask about check-in, because I think you have to... Tell me about check-in. Tell me about when you checked in Miss May.
Oh, all right. Very well, sir. My first thought was that she was a beautiful, beautiful person. She's just my type of girl, so it was a disappointment, really.
I see. Excuse me? What exactly was a disappointment?
Well, I am not without charm, sir, but even I'd have the little chance with her lover there.
What did he say? You've activated my trap card! What did you say?
Rather quite.
Bellboy, tell us the truth now. Did Miss May check in with another person?
I object. That was objectionable. Objection overruled. The witness will answer the question. Yes, I see. Why did you not mention this in your testimony? Well, sir, you didn't ask. Nice try. Let's take a second to save. That's the sort of thing you're normally supposed to mention. Ah, yes, quite. Indeed. It was the good barista there, Mr. Edgeworth, who... He asked me not to mention it if I wasn't specifically asked, sir. Ah! Ah, I love Edgeworth. You fool! Fools, all of you! I've done it! I've won! Miss April May checked in to a twin room with a man. Correct? Yes, sir. Then, when you brought them room service, you didn't see that man in the room? That's right, sir. Your Honor! We have just learned of another person involved who may have been the murderer. In light of this new fact, I hold that it's impossible to judge the defendant. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Edgeworth? And who, Mr. Wright, is this other person? Simple. It was the man with Miss May. The man who checked in with Miss May. Ugh. Your Honor, as has been previously revealed, Miss April May was tapping the victim's phone. Yet Miss May herself has an alibi at the time of the murder. However, that does not clear the man that was with her. The bellboy saw no one else in the room at the time of the murder. My, what a very convenient little setup. But it's too late. Too late? I suppose you'd like it if it was too late, wouldn't you? After all, it was you who hid the presence of the other man from this court. Ugh! Upstart. Amateur. These accusations are ludicrous. Enough. The court acknowledges the defense's argument. I expect the prosecution and the defense to look into this matter fully. Am I understood? Yes, Your Honor. That's all today for the trial of Maya Fey. Court is adjourned. We did it, guys. September 7th, 2:24 p.m. District Court Defendant Lobby Number 1.
Mr. Wright! You were amazing in there!
Really?
I think I might be your newest fan.
Oh, I was just doing my job, you know?
Then again, that other attorney was pretty cool too.
Huh?
That face of his, with his eyes wide and trembling lips. It sent shivers up my spine.
If you say so.
So, what happens with me? Do I get to go home now?
Well... No, I don't think so. Not yet.
Oh, I see. But I got a great lead in today's trial.
Oh, that was the wrong person. I got a great lead in today's trial. Lead? That man with Miss May. He's the key.
Oh, I get it. What happened to Miss May after that, anyway?
I heard they arrested her. I guess she's learning her charms won't work everywhere. She's probably at the detention center now. I may have to go down there later. Anyway, this case is far from closed.
Yes, sir!
I'm going to find out more about this man.
Do you think he was the one who...
Maybe so.
This?
Don't worry, I'll find him by tomorrow. I promise.
I'm counting on you.
I asked for a full record of April May's testimony.
I thought it might come in handy during the trial tomorrow. But now that I have it, I'm not so sure. Most of her testimony was all lies. In fact, there's only one part that hasn't been stricken from the record. May testimony added to the court record. Ooh, let's check that out. I don't know how much good this will do me at all now. The victim dodged an attack, then ran to the right, but she was caught and struck. Anyway, time to hit the pavement and do some investigating. Maya doesn't belong in that detention center, and it's up to me to set her free. Ugh, dropping my voice for all these male characters is hurting my throat after a while. September 7th, 3:11 p.m., Detention Center, Visitors Room. Well, hello! I didn't expect anyone to visit me in such a dank place as this. So dank, yo. It's really quite moving. Not! You stinking lawyer! I hope you die! Have you come to laugh? Yes, laugh at the fallen Miss May. No, not really. There's something I want to ask. Unfortunately, there is nothing I want to be asked. Haven't you done enough questioning, you spiky head? Here we go again. Please, you're scaring the security guard. So, what is it you wish to ask of me then, For starters, how did you get to be so totally whacked? Alright, let's see what we can learn for her. It's almost 5 o'clock, so we'll cut it off soon, but let's see what we can learn from Miss May. About the man who stayed with you in your hotel room. Can you tell me about him? Where is he? Come on. No way, Jose! Maybe if I had something to get her to talk. Let's ask about the wiretap. Why did you place a wiretap on Mia's phone? Oh, when you say it like that, it sounds so cold, so criminal. Tapping people's phones is a crime, Miss May. Oh, and I suppose you learned that in lawyer school, Creep. This woman is impossible to talk to. Say, why are you so angry? I mean, you don't look like a bad person. Oh, that does it! Bottom-feeding, scum-sucking lawyer! Bottom... I can't... Does she have a thing against lawyers? Or just against me? Okay, let's see if we can if there's anything we might be able to present. Autopsy report. I don't know if that's going to be much use. Yeah, no, I think I'll have to... we can try. Let's just throw her testimony at her, see what she says. Hey, guess what? Actually, I really hate your guts. So, get lost because, well, I'm not cooperating. Thanks, I noticed. Alright, I don't think showing her is gonna get us anything. Alright, since my throat's dying, I think I'm gonna stop here. Instead of going somewhere else, so that way we have a nice starting point for next time.